Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to my channel, and today in this video we are going to look at how we can consume the webhooks coming from Gitlab so that we are able to generate issues once they are created on Gitlab, and when there are any updates made to that issue, we are also able to fetch that inside our application. To give you a feeling of what I'm trying to do, I have this sample GitLab project where obviously there is no code as of now, but I have created one issue over here. And what I'm expecting is when that issue is created, if you see right now, if I go into this project, it is showing me the issue over here. So how do we do that is what we are going to learn in this video. Now GitLab by default inside the settings has this thing called webhooks. We can add a new webhook and we need to provide a URL. Now obviously this needs to be a public URL so that GitLab is able to connect to that. You can't have a local host. And at this point I'm using ngrok because it allows us to have a subdomain of our own. At least one you can have for free. So I'm using that, and /API/GitLab webhooks is what we will create. First we will see what the payload looks like, and then we will do our test driven development. Okay, so you can name it something over here. You can provide a secret token which GitLab will provide, or rather send as a header. So if you see, used to validate received payloads sent with the request in the X GitLab token HTTP header. So that means GitLab will send this secret token as a HTTP header with this particular key. So I can have a middleware which will validate this key, and based on that I can accept or reject the requests. So for now I will just have password over here, nothing very secret about it, but you can definitely have something secret there, and then you put your key in the env and use your middleware to kind of validate that. Okay, now GitLab does give you a lot of events over here, and it is, I would say, quite comprehensive. And what I will do is right now kind of add everything over here. Okay, just like that, and I will do add webhook. So now when I have this in place with ngrok, there is one more thing which is very handy, which is this admin web interface. Okay, this basically runs on your local host on port 4040. And what will basically happen over here is if I send a test webhook, for example, issues events, okay, it's not accepting that, which is fine, but I do get the entire payload. Can you see? Right? So this is the beauty of having ngrok, because you will get the entire data and I can actually replay. So I don't need to go over here and again do that test thing. Or for that matter, if you have any complicated scenario where you need to do multiple actions to finally generate the webhook, you can do it once, get it on ngrok, and then you can continue to do replays, and it will basically allow you to capture that. We have a clear understanding. Now let's go to our test cases and see how we can handle that. Now my idea over here, so we will have our service which will consume the webhook data. Now who is going to call that service? Well, there will be an API which will, let's just say, be webhook controller, maybe GitLab webhook controller. Okay, it will internally call handlers based on the event. Why? Well, if you remember, I haven't talked about it, my bad. This has a key called event type. So for example, if I do something like, I don't know if I will have anything else. So I have comments, I have issues. Let me see if I get a comment. So it says it's a note, right? So this one is of type issue, this one is of type note. And every webhook will be of a different shape. And I need to have different handlers for that code. So what I want to do is, in here, the webhook controller call handlers based on the event that I have received, which will be checked by the event type. Okay, so this is kind of clear. Now let's then start with an understanding. What I will first of all do is, in testing, there is a thing about testing the framework, which is not really required. So for now, as the basic step, what I will do is I'll create a test. Actually, no, I don't even need to create a test. I already have my GitLab service test, so I will use that. However, first we will create the web route. Oh, sorry, the API route. Okay. Inside here, I'm defining a post route called Gitlab webhooks. And what I want to do is have a controller. So I'll create a controller, single action controller. I will name it Gitlab webhook controller. And with that, I'll just name it Gitlab webhooks. So this is our first step. What next? I'll go inside my webhook controller, and then inside invoke, I definitely need the request. That's my Illuminate HTTP request. For now, why don't we just log it? Okay, let me just clear out the logs. And now if I try to replay the issue, I get a 200, which is great, and I get the data. And this is what I wanted, right? So we have our first step. What I want to do is, at the bare minimum, in my GitLab service, I want to send this data and I should be able to test certain things. For example, if I just open up my GitLab service test, the first thing, or the first test, what I would like to do is it inserts an issue when not present. Okay, this is going to be the first test that we will write. Then I would like to handle this scenario where it updates the issue when it is already present. And what I want to do is, if there is any update to the issue inside any project, what I also want to do is change the last activity of the project itself. So these are the three tests that we would like to perform for the basic functionality to work. Obviously, there are more tests that I will eventually write, but for now in this video, let's just address these three things. Now, to mock the data for the service to consume, I will need this entire payload. Now, how do I do that? I'm not going to sit and create this entire object. So in here, a simple option is something called fixtures. I have one fixture already present in my project. This is something which I had covered earlier. And what I would do is create one more. I'll name it webhook gitlab issue.json and paste the entire payload that I'm expecting. So with this in place, what will happen is I can generate an array from that JSON data for my tests to work. So I have this in place. I'm doing JSON decode, file get contents, and this. Now, why don't we also do an only? What happens is, with this in place, if I run my tests through the terminal, it will execute only that particular test and not the entire suite. So I have around 22 right now. It will ignore them, just run that particular test. Okay. So what I have done that because I want to see the data. Is that possible? Yes, it is. As you can see, now I have this entire data being printed as DD. So this is a variable that I have. So what do I do? So this is my arrange in my act. Why don't I create an instance of my GitLab service? And I'm expecting maybe to have a method called create or update issue. And I'll send the sample payload. However, there's one catch. If you see inside the sample payload, and I know these things because I've already played with this data, there is something called as object attributes. I'm only interested right now in this. Okay, so what I would do is just pass that. Obviously, I haven't created this function, but if I want to assert something, what I will do is assert database count issues 1. And obviously this is going to fail because I have not written any kind of code which asserts that the database has a thing. Even the method is not defined. So how do I even expect? So let's get down to work. Let's write down that method. So create or update. That's an array. So I will expect an array and I will not return anything as of now. Over here, I will have issue, update, or create, or rather insert. And this method takes 2 arguments. One is the where condition, so that it can check whether a record exists or not. If the record exists, it will perform the update. And if it doesn't, then it will perform the insert. So if that is the case, what is my where clause looking like? My where clause is going to be an issue ID from GitLab. So if you see over here, object attribute, I have ID. I don't need the ID because I'm treating that as internal ID. This is the ID that I'm interested in, and that is going to be the field in my database, which is the GitLab ID. Okay. So GitLab ID is going to be GitLab issue data ID. And additionally, I generally have a feeling that this ID is going to be unique, but still just add, oops, not updated at issue. Let me look at the migration for issues table. I have a project ID. Okay, and issue model has that. So ideally it should, yes, it is giving me in the autocomplete issue data dot, and this is going to be project ID if I'm not wrong. Let's look at that. Yeah, this is it. So this is my where condition. Okay. If this is fulfilled, it will update, otherwise it will insert. And what is the insert looking like? Well, it's a big array. So what I will do is I'll just copy paste things. All right. So what am I looking at? I am looking at GitLab ID, which is going to be the ID, internal ID, IID, project ID assigned to. If it is not available, then null, title, description, or empty. State we are capturing. Then we are taking the closed at. I need to, do I have carbon already? Yeah. So I have my closed at as a date, closed by, all of them are nullable fields. So we need to take care of that. I have labels, which is a JSON data, assignees, created at, updated at, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And obviously because this is a void, I don't need to return anything. But as I said, if you actually know, let's go by the TDD approach. Right now, the only test that I have is to ensure that this thing gives me a green signal. So let's see if I can do that. No, it is still failing. It is saying, okay, create or update issue. Is my method name wrong? Yeah. Now it should find that method name. Yeah. So if I run this again, run my test, now it is complaining about something else. cannot use object of type standard class as array. Well, and I thought it was an object. Oh, I know why. What I will do is pass an additional thing called associative equals true. Now it should pass. Well, if you don't understand, if you didn't get that particular piece, why associated equals true, now if I run it, can you see this is now an array? If I don't do this, okay, it treats this as an object. Okay, this is an object with keys, whereas this is an array now. Okay, and I preferred this over anything else, so that's the only reason I made that change. This is going beyond the thing of this particular line, so I'm just taking them down. So yes, congratulations, our first test is passing. Now I am pretty sure what will happen is this will automatically pass because it's the framework which is handling it. But why don't we do one thing? So let me first get the sample data. Obviously this is something which I need anyways in my arrange, and then I will have sample data title, some random title. The updated at will be different. So now why I am doing this? So my idea over here is when I pass this payload again to my service, it will detect that there is already an issue with that same GitLab internal ID and project ID. So what we will do is rather take this, keep this, and first of all, what I will do is just copy this part. Okay, so one ticket got created. Now at this point we have one issue. Now I will make this change and I'll try to send or the call again. With this, assert database has, I'm going to assert on the issues table, and my condition is going to be that my GitLab ID is sample data dot ID. It will be ID. Project ID is going to be this, and my maybe the title. I'll just add that. Maybe I don't even need the updated at. Okay, so this should ideally pass. Let me see. No, it is failing. Undefined array key ID on line 120. That's a bit weird. Sample data dot ID. That's kind of correct. I don't think I'm wrong over here. Let me do a diadem. I'll change this to only so that I am able to see in the terminal a bigger output. Okay. And okay, my mistake. So I should have printed or rather diademed this thing. And yeah, have this ID. Oh, my bad. Yeah. So I'm running the where condition directly, and that's why it was complaining. And yes, now if I do this, it is saying that it is not able to match. It updates the issue. So what is the problem? The ID is fine. Project ID is fine. It was expecting this. It got this. And again, the reason over here is I'm taking the wrong array. And yes, now it is passing. So yeah, I kind of took some time, but basically what is happening is at first I can get rid of this. Okay, they are not at all important. So I have sample data. Using this service, I created that issue because at that point the database was empty. So it did an insert. After the insert, I changed my sample data a little bit. I changed the title. I even don't need the updated at. I just changed the title, and then I sent the same payload back to the service. And at this point, what would have happened is inside my service, instead of the insert, the update would have triggered because it would find a record with this where condition, right? So when it finds that, it will update. So what I'm asserting over here is that my GitLab ID and project ID is what is there in the sample data, which I'm collecting from the JSON, but the title is what I have updated. So that in itself indicates that yes, my update is working. I don't know, I got this hack, which kind of, I think solves the purpose. So I did that. If you guys feel that, there is something, a better approach, I'm completely open to suggestions, and I will try to implement that. But this is something which I came up with. Okay, now updates the project based on the issue time. So what I want to do is, if an issue is updated, I want to update the project with which it is related to. So for that, again, I'll need the sample data. So just do that. And because I'm always using this, maybe I'll just do this object attributes so that I directly get the sample data over here. Now I'll create a project. Okay. And inside the project, I'll have project ID. It is going to be sample data, project ID, and the updated at is going to be now subtract a year. Okay, so I have one project which in my database exists, which is literally 1 year old. And the reason I'm doing this is because I know that my JSON has a separate date. Okay, I could have hard coded this as well, but for now it is fine. And then obviously I need the instance of my service. So I get that. And I will call this. So I need to standardize that. I'll change the thing over here. I'll just add that so that then I'm able to reference the data, because in here I am referencing sample data, which is directly taking the object attributes. In here I'm adding them again and again. So there is inconsistent code. I will just refactor that. But okay, I have this, and what I'm now expecting is issue first updated at. Okay, this is to be equal to project first updated at. Or maybe you can even do where project ID equals this. I think that's a better approach. Project ID is project, not project ID. So it's becoming a bit long. Right, so let's run this. It's failing because I think I made a mistake somewhere. Oh no, how will it how will it pass? So inside my service, what will need to be done is, see, I'm updating it, but then I'm not changing the updated at of the project. So quickly over here, what I will do is, after that insert, update or insert, I'll do project query where project ID is GitLab issue data, project ID, and update the updated at to carbon parse GitLab issue data updated at. So what is happening over here? I am querying for a project where the project ID is this, because I know this issue belongs to this particular project. Okay. And then I updated the updated at of that project with the timestamp of that particular issue, because that's when actually the project got updated. That's the last activity on that project, right? So I did that. And now if I run this, it is passing. This is basically what allows me to ensure that I am able to create the issue or update the issue from the webhook. So I'll just quickly do a test on the entire thing. Yes, 25 tests, all of them are passing. Now if I go to GitLab, time to create one issue over here. Where are the issues? Sorry. New issue created during recording. Test issue assigned to me. Create issue. If everything is correct, I got a 200. Okay, and nothing would have happened. Why? Because we have done everything else, but we haven't fired the controller. Right. That's the problem with test-driven development. Sometimes you don't even look at the integration. So I was pretty confident everything is working fine, but yeah, that's funny. Okay, how do I consume the webhooks? What I will do is quickly create a private array called supported events, and I'll have an issue handler. Okay, I'll basically inside my app folder, I'll have a new file named issue webhook handler. The namespace will be inside actions. GitLab, it's a class, straightforward, and it should have a handler. Handle method takes an array, returns void issue equals data, and then the object attribute. I will tell you why I'm doing this. And GitLab service equals app GitLab service class GitLab service issue. Okay, now this is all done. Why am I doing this? What I want to do is issue webhook handler. So I have an array of supported events because I can't just go on consuming every event that is coming from GitLab, right? Because I'm not sure if I'm prepared for that. So I have this list which I have created manually. It only has the things which I support. Now if request header, and this is something which I'm doing over here just for demo purpose. Don't actually have this kind of code. But what I'm going to do is throw new unauthorized exception from right wrong token. Okay, so if this is correct, I'll have a payload equals request all, and then if. So now I need to check whether the webhook which is coming is of any type which I have in my supported events. So I have this condition, which is if array key exists, if not array key exists payload event type. Payload event type is basically this. Okay, if this doesn't exist in my array, which is this supported event, I return response, which is of type empty. Status is 400. I just don't want to process that. Okay, but if everything is fine, then what I can do is clearly do app GitLab service, not that. I'll do app make this, and then supported events payload event type. Why am I doing this? And then run the handle method with the payload. So I'll make you understand what is happening over here. Can even do this. I don't need the make. So what happened? Why is it complaining? Right. I think this is something a bit a weird behavior that I have found. Although technically app and app make is kind of same, sometimes PHP Storm doesn't understand that. I don't know why. But what am I doing over here? I am getting an instance of the class based on the event type which is over here, right? I checked and found that I have a supported event type, and that event type has the class name, which I need to call. So what is happening is I'm saying that give me an instance of that class for which I have an event, for which I support, and then call the handle method. Okay. So now what should happen is if I replay this, I get a 500, which is great. It means our code is working and we are facing the problem because something is wrong. Okay. Undefined array key object attribute. This is coming from issue webhook handler. Issue webhook handler is over here. It is getting that on line number 11. Object, is it object attributes? Let me look at the test. Where is my test? Yes, I made that mistake. Always do a copy paste, otherwise you will land up with this kind of error. But anyways, now we are here to solve things. So now I have a 200, and ideally if I refresh, I get the ticket. Oh, sorry, issue. And the reason is very simple. The payload is here, and based on that, things are happening. In my project, I have this updated 7 minutes ago. If I go ahead and change this title, updated the issue, save changes, should have changed the title as well maybe. If I refresh, can you see this now says 4 seconds ago, and over here, okay, I haven't handled this, so the ticket is here, updated 7 seconds ago. So this entire flow is working. Now a quick recap. So we have, I'll just close the log. Yeah, where is my test? So we have 3 tests. First is it inserts an issue when it is not present. It updates an issue when it is already present. Updates the project based on the issue time, right? So these are the 3 things. The service is pretty straightforward. It takes the payload data. It makes a where condition query. If it finds it, it updates it. If it doesn't find it, it inserts that. After the insertion, it is updating the project's updated at, so that we know that the last activity is based on the update to that issue. And how this entire thing is being orchestrated? Well, we have an API which is Gitlab webhooks. The Gitlab webhook is being controlled by this Gitlab webhook controller. When we go to this controller, it's a single method controller. So we have the invoke method. Inside that, first we are checking the header. I will convert that into a middleware. But yes, we are checking whether the token is present or not. If it is not, then we throw an exception. We take the payload. If we don't find this event type inside our supported events, we again return a response which is of no interest. Just go over here and do 200. Okay. If it is not supported, it's a 400. Otherwise, we create an instance of the class based on the event type that we are supporting, and we call the handle method. And then we do this. And one last thing, let me see if I have my arc test. I'm not sure if I have already done that. No. So what I will do is, in here, I'll create a test called arc, which is basically an architecture test. And I'll paste in a few tests which are related to architecture. For example, I want to ensure that enum folder only has classes of type enums. Okay. Expect traits to be of type traits, expect services to be of type services. But the most important thing over here is if there are any classes which are present inside the app actions GitLab, it should have a suffix of handler, and I'm expecting them to have a method called handle. And it is important because I am just blindly telling the framework to get an instance of that particular class and call the handle method. I'm not doing any exception handling. So I have written the tests, and the test is going to ensure, where is my arc tests? GitLab service, this is project listing, page response. Yeah, these are the ones, sorry. Right, so this is where I'm able to ensure that those methods are there. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, right? So yeah, that's about it, guys. That's what I wanted to cover in this video. Because it is live coding, it's a little longer, but then I was thinking I have been doing explainer videos, and they were quite short, about 10-15 minutes if I'm not wrong, and in them I was kind of reading the code. But I thought, and I'll do this one as well, and you guys can comment whether you prefer the long format content, which is like this, where I'm literally doing live coding, where sometimes you will have a view of how I'm debugging things because I ran into issues multiple times, or you want a concise content where I'm just reading the code, explaining things. Both are fine to me. Mention in the comments so that that feedback helps me in the future videos as well. But yeah, that's about it, guys. If you like this video and if you have seen so far, I will definitely request you to subscribe to this channel, hit the like button. Yeah, thank you.